Hair thinning can happen for so many reasons. Whether it's stress or hormones or anything, at Nutrafol we've learned that real change starts below the surface. Our hair growth supplements take a whole body approach and target the key root causes of hair thinning, so you can see visibly thicker, stronger hair in 3 to 6 months.
Hair growth starts from the inside at Nutrafol.com. That's Nutrafol.com.
Being the ever-professional group that we are, welcome to the Sackheads Radio Show on the 25th of September, 2013.
Is that what date this is?
Can you believe that?
Already?
Dude.
You know what? It
it's
seems
almost
like...
time to pay taxes again.
Yes!
Sweet!
Yes! You're welcome. For you lefties out there that listen to us.
Now that I ruined your night, sorry about that. Wasn't my plan, really, but...
You know what?
What?
I'm in a very good mood.
I'm glad.
And here's why.
Because you're here after 2 weeks?
Listen, I called in the last 30 minutes
I know.
last week's
I'm
show.
just glad you could arrange your flight plan to actually show up tonight.
A little busy. Hey, I'm very excited. First of all, the baseball season has been outstanding for the Sackheads.
Yeah.
Congratulations to the Boston Red Sox.
Congratulations to Oakland. Now it's just going to be a matter of home field advantage, which will be settled here very shortly.
And honestly, I don't care either way. The fact that the Oakland Athletics, with one of the lowest budgets in baseball, won the AL West, I'm content. Regardless of what happens in the playoffs, I'm content.
Always fighters.
Now,
always fighters.
I do have to say I hope I see something. You're going to disagree with me, but being the baseball fan that I know you to be, you will appreciate, although you may not agree, you're going to appreciate, I think, what I'm about to say.
Well, maybe.
I didn't say you'd like it. I said you'd appreciate it. There's a fundamental difference here, Sean. So,
you mean in this country?
Listen, don't get all philosophical right now. We're talking baseball, okay? This is a conservative political talk show. Why would we not talk baseball? It's American as apple pie.
Seriously, I really want to hear your opinion.
Okay. So, I would love to see a rematch of the 1988 World Series. Oakland Athletics versus the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Right.
Because really we have payback to do, and we've been waiting over 20 years to get it. So
yeah, I don't agree.
I didn't say you'd agree, but you can appreciate it.
Of course I can. You're a fan. Why wouldn't I appreciate that?
Exactly. And the fact that Oakland got swept in that series.
A pile of trash. But hey, you know what? It's a new year. Listen, baseball has been so much fun this year. It's been a lot of blast to watch.
It's been a surprise.
A lot of nobodies from a lot of different teams have really contributed heavy this year. It just shows you what a fun game it is. I'm looking forward to the playoffs. I can't wait. I really can't wait.
I'm excited, and I will be very excited. I really hope that it is Oakland and Boston in the ALCS.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
Mostly because I know that we're going to end up going to a game in Oakland and flying out and going to a game in Boston.
Yeah, I've reached out to our respective teams to see if they'd want us to cover it or something like that. They haven't gotten back to us yet. I don't know why. We're a major media outlet. You would figure that they'd be really interested in us, but
speaking of which, I want to give
maybe I shouldn't have sent the picture that I sent. I figured they just liked guys.
Wait, pitcher? You're speaking Bostonese, and we are talking baseball, so I have to confirm whether it's pitcher, like the guy throwing the ball.
Photograph a pitcher.
Okay. Got it. Not the guy throwing the ball.
That could shack the shack. So much news to talk about. I'm afraid to even start.
Are you really?
Yeah. It'd be fun. Don't get me wrong. I'm always excited to come to work here every single week. And but this is like just so much to talk about. It's going to be insane. Where do you want to start? You know, you haven't been here in a few weeks, and
don't say a few, 2.
You haven't been
That's
here.
That's not a few. That's a couple.
You haven't been here in a couple weeks.
There you go. And I called in last week.
You did call in. I'm not saying you didn't
for the
call
last
in,
30 minutes.
But I know how much you like to be in studio. I know how much it bothers
I
you
missed it.
when you miss. So as a gentleman, I want to concede the first topic of the night off to you.
I'm not ready to get into the show yet. So, is Sackhead Sacco in studio?
I think he is.
Did he come in?
Sacco?
Hi, guys.
Hey!
Welcome.
Thanks for showing up.
I want to complain before I get into the first topic. Your mouse doesn't work? I apologize. They make pills for that.
You know, at your age, you shouldn't be having that problem yet.
I have a complaint.
Wow. Go ahead, complain. Let's hear it.
Before we get into the show, the topics, and we have several, and a lot of them actually are gonna revolve around guns. But I actually downloaded that new Apple operating system, iOS 7. What a bunch of crap that is.
You know, and
please go and explain how crappy is it.
Okay, so if I wanted an Android phone,
it's like downloading an old version of Android.
Explain why it looks like Android.
Because Android is better,
maybe.
Exactly
like Android. Explain why two apples look exactly alike. Because they're
Why are you defending them right now? Do you like iOS 7?
It's not a big deal. I like a few features, you know.
A couple features?
Yeah.
What, the fact that the whole thing's light and it's in pastels? Who designed this? Seriously, I'm not marching in a parade in San Francisco. What? I don't understand why my phone looks like a rainbow, like a Skittles package when I swipe it and unlock it, and all these pastel-colored icons. I don't
understand it either.
It looks like Easter. It's perpetually Easter. This isn't springtime. Christmas is coming up. They should be harsher fall colors, maybe. If it's like Windows. It's like Windows.
I wasn't a huge Apple fan at all. I'm still not a humongous Apple fan, but I finally acclimated myself from my work iPhone to the iOS thing, and it did what it was supposed to do. It was fairly easy to use. It wasn't all that difficult.
Which is what I like, because being Portuguese, I need things that are very easy to use.
Yes.
I'm not that intelligent. I need push this button. Perfect. I can do that.
You know what's funny?
What?
Is that's pretty much your whole job here.
Push this button?
Push this button. I can do that.
I can do that. I can talk. I need to talk about something. I can talk about something.
The last version of it was easy to use. This one, and I'm not saying this one is the worst thing that's ever happened, because there was World War II. But if World War II never happened,
right,
this might be pretty high up on that list.
I don't know if Apple is celebrating diversity, which I'm okay with. We celebrate diversity, but the color scheme on it is just, it's, you know what it is? It is not. It's made for a metrosexual. So if somebody swipes their screen and they look at all the pastel colors, right, and they're in their, like, I don't know, those capri pants that some guys wear now in their Toms.
I hate that.
Or whatever.
I hate
right?
that more
That's
than
what it's
anything
designed
else.
for. It's not made for a guy that wears cowboy boots, jeans, and a sack on his head. Like a paper bag, because that sounded gross. It's not made for people that wear tricorn hats and carry guns. Let's
it's
be
not
real.
exactly the most manly operating system ever.
Sacco, did you design this? I know you don't work for Apple or anything, but did you send in some kind of design scheme? Because this is something that I could picture you going with.
No comment.
Alrighty then.
Listen, I'm ready to get into a topic now.
All right, well, that's good.
I got that off my chest. I feel good. I want to start with the UN Arms Treaty.
Oh.
That Kerry signed, which is awesome, right?
Yeah, Secretary of State Munster.
So there's the UN Arms Treaty that Kerry signed because he listens to the people. He called it a, quote, significant step, and I did not just do air quotes, in addressing illegal gun sales, and also went on to say that it's going to protect individual gun rights. And I have a quote from him.
I don't have the audio
Okay.
because I can't stand his voice.
What he says is,
I was gonna download it because I'm like, hey, we should have a clip for this, but then I didn't want to listen to.
was that Frankenstein?
It's like Herman Munster with a Boston accent. It's the most obnoxious thing. That's just him whenever the president gives him like a cookie because he thought he'd done good. You know, like Syria when he made a mistake and said something stupid and then the world took him seriously and he tried to say that he meant it. That was awesome.
That's John Kerry. Okay, so who's better, Kerry or Biden?
It's a catch-22, really. They're good for different reasons. Because John Kerry is just a numbnuts. You know what I mean? Like, he's just overall a boob.
Right.
Joe's kind of a boob overall, but Joe has amazing sound clips. John Kerry doesn't have...
Joe's like a 90-year-old frat kid. Yeah. He's like Blue from...
Yeah, my boy, Blue. John Kerry doesn't have good sound clips. It's all this monotone ridiculousness all the time. Just blah, blah, blah. At least Biden says stuff that makes you want to cry. You laugh so hard.
It's a big fucking deal.
It's a big effing deal. I just fired two through the door. That's how you do it around the old Biden household.
All right, I'm going to get back to Kerry here. So I want to quote Kerry. We don't have the audio, but this is a quote. He says, "This is about keeping weapons out of the hands of terrorists and rogue actors." Like Ben Affleck, I don't think he even owns a gun. This is about reducing the risk of international transfers of conventional arms that will be used to carry out the world's worst crimes. Listen, I'm not making this up. I don't know what Hollywood has to do with this. I thought they were friends, but
I thought the liberals loved Hollywood. They push their agenda constantly.
Why doesn't he want them to have guns?
Why would he be going after them like that?
You know what? Maybe he doesn't like violent movies.
Oh.
Right? So clearly this is about suppressing Hollywood's First Amendment right in addition to American Second Amendment right. This conspiracy goes deeper than most people give it credit for.
It's like Inception.
But
it's a conspiracy within a conspiracy within a conspiracy.
Wrapped in an enigma. He goes on to say this treaty will not diminish anyone's freedom. Oh, that's good because I was worried about that.
Since when do they worry about those things on that side?
Because it just sounds good. And he says, in fact, the treaty recognizes the freedom of both individuals and states to obtain, possess, and use arms for legitimate purposes. First of all, states don't have the right because the Second Amendment doesn't pertain to states. And if you read any original documents, that'd be clear. But I want to read you something completely unrelated.
I'm pretty sure. Wait a minute.
Well, no. Okay.
No, I'm pretty sure when the Second Amendment was written,
right,
that those who are founders had an amazing state of mind. So I disagree with your statement.
They don't even like our founders. Did you see that study that came out? That was on Yahoo that some ridiculous number of Americans can't even name the first four presidents or the founders.
There was another really good one. So I was like,
dumbing down of America.
Right, you can't do the founders. Constitution. If you're not good at history, the Constitution is not history. It's very much part of our everyday life here. And there was another one where they tried to do the Constitution, and people were just they were blown away by it.
It was like 45% of Americans did not know that we gained our independence from Britain.
Right. They thought it was from England.
Hang on. Hey, Pierce.
Oh, wait.
Hey, Pierce. Remember Yorktown.
They thought it was from England.
That was for Pierce. I want to read you something. It's completely unrelated to the story we were talking about, the UN Arms Treaty, because there is no conspiracy. The UN does not want to disarm anybody.
No, gosh, no.
But I'm going to read you a document. It's dated 29 to 31 July 2013, and it's from the United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs. Uh-oh.
Why would they have an office for that if they don't want to take away Go on.
I'm sure it's completely unrelated. Anyways, the report is titled Disarmament Commission, Civilian Weapons Confiscation Study Group.
Wait a minute, what?
I'm sorry, Disarmament Commission, Civilian Weapons Confiscation Study Group. Listen, the UN Arms Treaty is completely unrelated to the UN Office for... Ooh, I see a potential problem.
Why would they even have an office like that?
Because they don't like guns.
Right.
Why would we sign a treaty with a... Anyways, it doesn't begin. Anyways, it goes on and talks about in this document, it's literally a one-page document. And if you do a search under Disarmament Commission Civilian Weapons Confiscation Study Group and just type in text, download it, read it yourself. It's a quick read, but I want to touch a couple high points here. Again, it was dated July 29 to 31 July of this year in New York. And it starts by saying the issue of military-grade weapons in the hands of civilians looms ever larger in the face of the global implementation of 22 Agenda 21 by member nations. In particular, the United States of America has estimated 500 million weapons in the hands of its civilian population. First of all, I say that's good because any other countries, if you want to come over here and screw with us, we got something for you. But that's just me. So the United States is mentioned specifically.
Well, yeah.
And talks about 500 million weapons in the hands of the civilian population specifically. And that has me very worried because now we sign on to this treaty. And a couple things that it talks about as problem areas that must be addressed are classification of military-grade weapons to be made illegal for possession.
You mean like the military grades of A, B, C, D, like you should have this, it's an A, this is an excellent weapon? Or
no, I think what they're going for is it fires a bullet out of this end, therefore it's military grade.
Oh.
Is I think what they're going for.
I'm lesser excited as we go on.
But it talks about codification of laws to begin restricting and strict licensing of concealable firearms. Okay, so that's handguns. Codification of laws to begin the restricting and strict licensing of hunting-grade firearms. Ooh, wait a second. This said originally that the issue was military-grade weaponry. Now they're talking about hunting-grade firearms. It doesn't matter.
Listen,
nothing
it's all
to see
semantical
here.
at this
Nothing
point.
to see here. It talks about codification of laws to restrict the sale of and possession of ammunition and components to manufacture ammunition. So basically,
if you
reload,
if you're a self-reloader,
if you reload, you save brass and you reload,
you're boned. Sorry,
that
wasn't the word I was looking for. I was screwed.
Yeah, UN wants to, and it talks about finally codification of laws to completely make any and all firearms illegal to own, possess, or use outside of military and law enforcement usage. So according to this, what the UN hopes to accomplish is they don't want you to be able to hunt or shoot for sport or anything. It talks about also creation of a United Nations police task force with the specific mission of assisting member nations with the collection of weaponry from civilian hands.
They're such helpers. They just want to really help.
Listen, they want blue helmets.
They want to help take all of our guns away.
To come in and help our law enforcement.
Take our guns away and violate our Constitution.
And it's not the law enforcement here. They go out and they serve and protect the citizenry. We have a great respect for law enforcement and military.
Ours,
exactly.
This is how this conversation would go when the blue helmets show up.
Well, hang on.
Ready? Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Who's there?
United Nations. We're with the world government. We're here to help.
No.
Okay.
That's fair, right?
Yeah, no.
So they've been duly warned. Do not come to my house.
Right.
Okay.
And that address is 123 Anywhere Street.
123 Main Street, Anytown, USA.
They already know where you live.
Of course they do.
Because you're a patriot. So, putting this document together with the arms treaty that the United States just signed on to is very, very concerning for me.
As it should be, yes.
As it should be. But I haven't seen, and maybe I just have not looked hard enough, but I have not seen this report referenced in any of the mainstream media articles referencing
which is bizarre,
the UN
right?
Arms Treaty.
Well, I have yet either.
But I think it's important. I mean, it's germane to the conversation because it's like reading the Constitution without reading any of the founding documents that led up or the debates leading up to. Well, never mind. A lot of people already do that.
And Rooster said, and I believe sarcastically in the chat room, luckily it will never be ratified.
Yet, but
right.
Did we think that healthcare was going to be ratified?
Right. There's a lot of things we never thought would be ratified that have been ratified, and if it's a matter of waiting it out, especially in the Senate, if the libs and the left really feels like they can pick up a couple more houses in the Senate, seats in the Senate, for whatever reason, they can hold off and they don't have to ratify it right away. They can do something with the language. You know how they push things off left and right on a regular basis. We don't like blah, 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 blah. Or you may get, believe it or not, a couple rhino Republicans because they only need, what,
I don't
13?
think so. Listen, you have too many Democrats from conservative or
many Republicans
or conservative states. Look what the backlash on this weapons issue, what it did in Colorado.
I understand that.
I think you're going to have Democrats siding on the other side of this. They're not going to lose their job. They're already in a precarious position with Obamacare, unless they think there's no way they're going to get reelected. So they say, screw it, we're voting for it. But
all I'm saying is the fact that it can be that close is scary, and it scares the hell out of me on that.
Yeah, the fact that Kerry would even sign something like this. Now, here's another concerning issue for me.
Go ahead.
In the Constitution, treaties that are signed are just as much law of the land as our Constitution.
Yes.
So, which is
becomes the higher power?
Yeah. Which side of that issue is the Supreme Court going to say trumps the other? Because if they both have the force of law, the Constitution and treaties that are signed and ratified by our elected officials, although they were supposed to be ratified by the Senate, which was supposed to represent the states, not be popularly elected. Never mind, I digress.
Well, listen, you're just talking about ancient history that was jacked up.
Don't point your little Starbucks coffee stirrer at me.
My other issue that I have with this, too, is this UN Arms Treaty mixed with that report is almost like a liberal dream. Because now they can sign the UN Arms Treaty and not take away our second. Well, no, it's a UN Arms Treaty, and we had to be a good neighbor. But we as liberal Democrats don't want to take your Second Amendment right away, so we'll just let it get chipped away by the UN's Arms Treaty, and we won't take the blame for it. That's a concern I have, too, is how they will use this as leverage against the Second Amendment. You look at, we talked about it last week when you called in, and there's a website that we're going to talk about it. But you look at what they've already done to the Second Amendment and how they've already chipped away little by little, this and that and the other thing.
We've talked about that. That's
right.
by design. That's clearly by design. You have to change a little bit at a time,
bit at a time. It's a nudge.
It's a slow erosion of rights because you can't do it all at one time because the people wouldn't stand for it. And one day people are going to wake up and realize that they don't have their rights. We've talked about that over and over again. I want to kind of get off base a little bit because it dovetails into a conversation I had with a more liberal acquaintance of mine. And the conversation went something like this. Well, if people were armed, right, people you didn't know who had a weapon, they were concealed or whatnot, I think that crime would go down because bad guys don't want to go up against somebody that may have a gun. The statistics bear that out. So, and he says, well, what do people need guns for? Well, it doesn't matter. Personal protection, blah, blah. Okay, well, if guns are out there, then people can use them in a bad way. And I said, well, okay, so let's talk about this for a second.
You mean like airplanes?
Well, let's talk about this for a second. Is man inherently good or evil? And that was kind of the crux of my argument. And he said, well, he dodged it. I don't know that man is inherently good or evil. I think they just are. They're biological beings. Well, but went down that whole liberal argument, right?
He went, hey, the government tells us that if you break these laws, you're a bad person, but if you don't break these laws, you're good.
He wouldn't even engage in the debate of good or evil. What he said was he basically started going down the path of human beings can be programmed or were brought up a certain way, and that whole like state of mind, gender neutrality, good evil is all subjective crap. And I submitted to him. I said, no, I see. Now, here's the difference between the liberal argument and the conservative argument as I see it. I think that man is inherently good. We're flawed, but we're good. And that most law-abiding people that have guns don't commit these heinous crimes. The violent crimes are typically committed by people that shouldn't have them anyways because they're bad, right? They're the felons. They've done
mental health
bad
issues.
things.
We can go down the line.
It's right. And if man was inherently bad, we would have a lot more violent crime than we have now. So I said, but the fact that he wouldn't engage in that discussion shows that he doesn't believe in good and evil, and therefore that's the problem. And I think that's one of the big issues why liberals and conservatives can't come together on this issue, because the foundation is so far apart. You have one side that believes in good and evil, essentially God or not, right? Our rights come from God as a result, can't be taken away. It's in all of our founding documents, those of you that read them. Those of you that don't, check them out. I highly recommend it.
Good reading.
But if you don't believe that in good or evil, and you believe in some Darwinian, subjective, psycho bullshit, for lack of a better term, then you have no basis for anything, and now you go down that road of social engineering, and then you can't have rights coming from God. They have to come from government. And
we already know this government's researching social engineering, so that's fine.
And if government gives rights, they can take the rights away. But you can't come together on that. There's no common ground.
But let's walk it down their argument, that it's inherent and that you're raised a certain way and it's your influences. There are a lot of liberally raised children that never heard a fly. So you can't even say it's every influencer that it's all influences. There are a lot of kids that grow up in terrible homes that never go out and commit these horrendous atrocities.
Right.
So you can't even argue that it's the nurture versus nature, any of that.
No, but I think the crux of the argument is they won't even have the argument of...
Right, because they're afraid of the argument itself.
Right. They don't even have the argument of, hey, man is inherently good or man is inherently evil. And if man is inherently good, then why can't you trust him or her to defend themselves? Because once you go down that road, now your argument really starts falling apart, right?
Right, and like I said, you can look at it when that baby's born, whether you believe in God or you don't believe in. When that baby's born, it is a complete fresh sheet of paper. If you want to look at it that way, if you believe that it's that influence and you do nothing but good influences, here's a little hint. There's plenty of people that grew up in perfectly fine homes that have gone out and done terrible
Name one. Name one serial killer in the United States that was completely normal.
How about this Bin Laden? Seriously, Osama bin Laden. I know, I was a screw up.
Nice Freudian
Osama
slip.
bin Laden grew up with well-to-do affluent parents in Saudi Arabia.
What did he do wrong?
Right, exactly. But he had fairly normal parents. I believe his father was a diplomat, and they were wealthy, and he had access to education. He had every door open.
He still has family here in the United States, right?
He does still have family here in the United States. But he had every pathway open in life that he could have went down, and he chose to be a murderous lunatic.
I like the fact that you said murderous lunatic. I just think that paints a picture.
Well, but that's exactly what he was. In my opinion, outside, if you remove the religious influence aspect, and I am one of those people that and with what happened in Kenya, understand I am in no way defending Muslim extremists. I don't think he was, because if you read a lot about him and you talk to people that knew him growing up, he wasn't exactly a religious guy. I think he duped people that were religious into doing his bidding. You know what he is? He was an angry rich kid.
Spoiled rich kid.
He was a spoiled rich kid.
So you're saying he was the kid from The Toy with Richard Pryor before Richard Pryor came in and changed him.
Right.
So you're saying Richard Pryor could have changed Osama bin Laden.
Quite possible. The guy changed a lot of things.
We make logical connections here on this show, ladies and gentlemen. If Richard Pryor had known Osama bin Laden, he would be a different man.
That's a prime example of growing up with influence in a good home and turning into this murderous, insane lunatic.
But did all of his family turn into a murderous, insane lunatic?
Absolutely not.
So man is inherently good.
Yes.
But you can't have that argument with a liberal.
Why? We just did.
We did, but we're not liberal. That's the problem.
But we just dumbed it down for them.
Because if you say that, then they'll say, well, okay, so man is inherently good. Perfect, so why can't you trust him with the gun? They don't need it.
Right.
Right, and you don't need your Mercedes.
You don't need underwear. You don't need shoes. You don't need your house. As a matter of fact, I'll take a page out of the liberal book. You don't need that Mercedes that you're driving, but
I
I
just
feel like
said that.
I do.
Ooh, you deserve it.
So I've worked hard. What have you done for me?
Right.
You know that false sense of scruples and morals that you have drilled into your head that you have to, give things away, and we need to teach each other how to give stuff. I've never believed in that anyhow.
I still think it's hilarious that liberals drive Mercedes and Volkswagens, companies that were started under Nazi Germany. I think that's freaking awesome. Hey, we're up against a break right now.
But
we're up against a break.
Great cars. Yeah, they were really good with train schedules too, but that doesn't exactly excuse everything.
Yeah, hey, they made really big ovens. I don't think you'd want to buy one of them.
We'll be back at 3 on the Sackheads Radio Show.
Hello, I'm Lori, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Dr. Larry Arnn on how the founders viewed God as the source of our equality and legal rights.
America's founders knew, obviously, that human beings are not equal in terms of strength or beauty, or in terms of intelligence, industry, or talents. They understood that because of such differences in talents and things like that, some people will be wealthier than others. But human beings are equal, the founders believe, in their possession of natural rights, such as the rights to life, liberty, and property. Today, many Americans reject this equality of rights in order to pursue equality of condition through redistribution, or spreading the wealth around, to use a famous formulation. This is destructive of liberty as the founders understood it.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I know I've said it before. Check out our friends at conservativeoutcry.net, but I really mean it. If you want interesting and exciting political commentary and analysis, that is the place to get it. Different, always spot on, always truthful, never pulling a punch. conservativeoutcry.net. Tell Rooster to get Bulldog back on and that Sackheads Radio sent you. And also, coming soon, the Sackheads Radio Forum on conservativeoutcry.net.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
Hi, this is Sarah Marie Brenner. You know, we often talk on the Brenner Brief about the fact that there really needs to be an organization to help people at the local level who are interested in running for things like school board, city council, and other local offices. Well, I think I finally have the solution for you, at least for you women out there. It's called Politigal Network, Politigal Network.com. Their website's going to be launching mid-August, but they're already on Twitter at PolitigalUSA. I encourage you to follow them and become a member. Their goal is to be the #1 resource for conservative women. So if you love freedom, liberty, the United States of America, and politics, check out PolitigalNetwork.com or Twitter at PolitigalUSA.
Now back to Clint and Sean on Sackheads Radio, radiating elegancy and quality.
Hey, we're back I'm back. I don't know, where did everyone go? You know, it's amazing how often I get left alone in this room. Is it me, guys? I mean, really, did I do something wrong?
Well, you're farting.
Yeah, like that's changed anything. So we went to break. We were talking about the UN Arms Treaty and the other, what was the name of that ridiculous group? The United Nations gun grabbing group from sovereign nations, I believe, was our nickname for it. And as we live and breathe, Clint can finally find his way back to the microphone. We'll do things on your schedule.
I know.
Apparently,
that when I feel like it.
Right. No, this was great. Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
This is really making for a good segment.
Well, yeah, because you're leading it, right?
The last time I led anything that worked out.
Normandy.
I screwed up the coffee order last week. I mean, come on. Am I really the person?
I don't know because I wasn't here last week, so I can't speak to that. I want to say something.
Yeah.
We're talking about guns, and I had the opportunity today to shoot probably the best rifle I have had the privilege of shooting in my life, and I've done a lot of shooting.
I was gonna say that's a pretty tall order there.
That's a pretty bold statement. So there's a company, and the more I learn about this company, the more I love it. And we're talking about guns right now, so I figured it's a kind of a good time to talk about this before we continue on. But have you ever heard of Patriot Ordnance Factory?
I
POF?
technically have to say yes. However, for the sake of the bit, no.
Just say yes, because you know.
Well, yeah, I've heard of them.
Their website is pof-usa.com, and first of all, they have the new Patriot series is awesome because they have a picture when you first go onto their website of a Patriot with a tricorn hat and the U.S. flag with the 13 stars in a circle in the background, and he's holding a POF AR-15 rifle instead of a musket.
I imagine that's what Samuel Whittemore looked like just before he attacked those British in Arlington, Massachusetts.
Right. Anyways,
this guy looks great for 80-something, by the way.
I shot one of the POF rifles, and first of all, the dust cover when it came down was laser etched with a U.S. flag, and it said "God bless America" on it. Which, first of all, that's any company
that shows
does
you
that.
The attention to detail that went into this rifle was incredible.
And love of country.
Right.
Very
easily could have put their own logo on that for an advertising opportunity, but chose not to.
It was outstanding. But the rifle shot, it was so incredibly smooth. It was an excellent running gun. I was able to stay on target with rapid fire. I don't know what it is in the design or whatnot, but it cycled clean. It cycled faster, it seemed, than other M4 or AR-15 platforms that I've had the opportunity to fire. It was just a great rifle, and so my hat's off to POF USA. They make an outstanding product, and look, we're not paid by them or anything like that. It's just I shot this and I wanted to give them their due credit because I was so impressed. And the more I learn about the company, also, I'm very impressed by the company and the business model that they have, as well as the fact that they're patriots. You know, the Patriot line that they have out. Anyways, I highly encourage anybody to check out their website. They make a great product. It's an outstanding company, and their weapon is just very, very smooth. I want to pick one up.
Well, you know, it's funny. It was one of those things that we're always excited when we come into the studio at the beginning of the night. We usually rip roaring. We have so many topics to cover, and I started to barrage you with our usual political topics and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And you stopped me dead in my tracks.
Yeah.
And by that I mean you punched me in the chest, which was a little over the top.
Verbally.
Physically.
Yeah,
you
was
physically punched me in the chest. But
it was my foot.
As you said, that was your exclamation point, and I said, well, that should probably come at the end of the story.
But I said boom when I did it. Remember?
Right. I don't think the victory lap was necessary. However.
Especially when I tripped over the wire.
And you said to me, I fired the most amazing rifle today.
I did.
And I said, that's great, Clint. I asked you if you wanted coffee.
I was like a kid.
I
was like a kid that went shooting for the first time.
It was in a good way, it was the goofiest and happiest I've seen you in a long time. And I honestly figured there was going to be a punchline. I figured you were setting me up for a giant joke until you showed me the website. But from everything you described, why would you not want to buy that weapon?
You know what? Or just even give them business. Look, these rifles are made in Arizona. I actually bought a couple posters from the site just because.
Why wouldn't you?
They're stinking awesome. But outstanding. I'm sorry, I digressed. I didn't mean to.
It is a little bizarre that before we went to break, we talked about the UN taking our guns away, and then we're like, but before that happens.
got a caller?
Yeah. It's a friend we haven't heard from in a while.
Who is it?
And who is it?
Man.
Who else
Good
would it
evening. Hey, man. Is this the United Nations, man?
No.
I'd like to drop off some mass destruction weapons for donation, man, in Syria.
This is the Sack Kids Radio
Show.
This is
the Sack Kids Radio Show.
You dialed the wrong number.
If you're trying to reach the UN, you can dial.
Let me pull up
cool.
the UN.
When did you all become a part of the UN? Oh, this is awesome. I listen to you guys almost all the time on the radio. Oh, man, it is seriously itching, man. I really appreciate the fact that you took my call. Oh, wow, man.
You know what? You sound like, have you seen Semi-Pro?
Yeah.
You sound like the guy who won the $10,000 like half-court shot. and you sound white. So
obviously it has to be me, Ken McClinton, the exceptional conservative. Thank you so much for taking my phone call. And listen,
welcome back to the show, my friend. How's it been?
It's been a while. It's been great, you know.
Great, because it's been a while. That's kind of messed up.
I know, really?
No.
That's a little rude. But okay, I guess we'll go with it.
Well, no, you know, here in D.C., we get our medicinal marijuana through the Medicaid program, and so, you know, it's just good. Like I never knew how sick I was until they started offering marijuana for free.
Hey, Ken, just so you know, I'm really glad that my taxes are paying for your pot.
Thank you, man. But I wanted to call you up and let you know that, you didn't pay your state taxes. But okay, don't worry. I am not telling.
Hey, just so you know, well, that's good because you don't live in a state anyhow. You live in D.C. District, so it's all right. Hey, Ken, I did find the United Nations phone number for you and anyone else that wants to call them about the UN Arms Treaty. That's 212-963-8687. So if you'd like to voice your opinion maybe for the United Nations.
Because they care.
Right. So give them a call and just tell them what you think. Or give them a call and ask if the refrigerator's running. It's the UN. We don't care.
Is my refrigerator running? Held up, did.
But you must.
I told them.
If you prank call the
refrigerator, we were not going to Brazil, man. We're not going to the Olympics, so stop practicing.
Ken, you have to promise us that if you call the UN to file a grievance or, I don't know, crank call them, which is fine by us, actually, because they're not part of our country, so I don't think that they can file a harassment phone call charge against us.
Can we evict them?
I would love to. But you must tell them that the Sack Kids Radio Show told you to call.
I will. I'll do that earnestly.
And the phone number again to call the United Nations. Hey, lots going on in your neck of the woods this week. Were you up with Senator Cruz all night?
Well, no. I try not to stay awake late. Yeah, I was.
Hey, speaking of the Senate, and I know that we are. I know that we're kind of talking about guns right now. What's going on with their webpage? You see the Senate webpage?
No, I didn't.
On the Second Amendment. Oh, it's awesome. So it says it says on the official Senate webpage on the Constitution, it says, quote, about the Second Amendment, whether this provision protects the individual's right to own firearms or whether it deals only with the collective right of the people to arm and maintain a militia has long been debated.
Well, I wrote that on my exam. Do you mean that's wrong?
What? Well, no, not for college because you want to pass. But yes, it's technically wrong.
It's wrong. Oh,
it's technically wrong.
There goes the SAT.
What's hilarious is if they bother to put up the U.S. code, which defines what a militia is. It's in federal statute. It clearly says that you have the organized and the unorganized militia, and that the unorganized militia essentially is the people themselves. So they defeat themselves with their own argument on the militia. How awesome is that?
it's truly awesome, and I like to thank Susan Rice for putting that together for us. It was a video.
I love how free Ken is on our show. You listen to his show, and he's all business, and he's hitting topics, and he's just in and out. He's got guests. He does this. He does that. He comes on our show, and it's like political romper room for conservatives.
I don't know if it's a sign of respect that he trusts us enough to just have fun and let loose, or whether it's a sign of complete disrespect in that we're such a joke that he can just call in and jackass.
I was like, well, how much worse could it get?
Right. These guys are complete jackasses, so let's just do this.
I rave about this show everywhere I go. I think Sackheads Radio is the best program you can listen to, and
you mean other than your show, right? The Exceptional Conservative.
Well, I try not to mix the apples with the oranges unless I'm talking about Obamacare. So
no. Those are apples and apples. Those are apples with a lot of worms and then a nice fresh crisp apple, right? Isn't that what the comment said?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it, honey.
Would you be really fearful if your press secretary is describing your health program as an apple with worm?
Well, yeah. You know, one of the things, I think it was Dick Durbin who said today. And
what was his name?
Dick Durbin.
Okay.
He's a senator, and I was watching the whole Senate debate today.
You said Dick.
Honestly, I had to do a take because I thought you said Dick Turban, and I was like, why are we talking about condoms now? This is weird. So that's why I asked to repeat.
But one of the things that he said, which really scared me, he goes, well, you know, Obamacare now is just pretty much like a starter house. It's going to have a couple problems. As time goes on, we're going to have to build it and change some things and expand some things. The fact that mentality is already coming out. Listen, we all knew that once they started to put it in a little bit that they were going to try to expand it. Obamacare. Once they installed it, we knew they were going to try to expand it. But it doesn't implement for another 6 days for the actual beginning of it.
There's plenty of time.
Yeah, and they're already putting it out there how much they're going to expand it. And I thought that was ridiculously telling, the fact that they would throw that out there. And,
the unfortunate thing. I'm sorry. Yeah. The unfortunate thing here is that it really doesn't matter what the Senate and what the House does here, because the 2010 Congress signed over the purse to the executive under the Obama agreement. And the Secretary of Health has the right to go right on over to the Treasury Department at any time and request whatever amounts of money that are necessary to put in Obamacare. So, I really love the speech and everything, but if you really want to do this, you gotta pull it all out, the weed, everything, and get it done.
So are you saying that since the Senate has handed over power on yet something else, we've become even more of an administrative state and not so much a constitutional republic anymore?
I believe totalitarian state is what you want to say.
Yeah, it's almost like you're comparing.
It's almost like you're reading from Philip Drew, Administrator, the book written back under Wilson's administration.
No.
Huh, weird.
Yeah,
you're only saying
we've lost this 100-year war. I like to thank John McCain for that. Thank you, sir. I respect your service, but you suck.
Yeah. Do we have a quote from McCain?
I do. I have one.
We have one quote, his most famous quote, I think.
Right. This was him today. Somebody yielded the floor to him.
Yeah.
What he had to say.
What he had to say. So that was John McCain. And a lot of his quotes sound like that now, which is weird. He almost says the same thing over and over again.
Somebody likened him today on Twitter as a victim of the pod people, and the pod people being liberals. that he went to bed one night, and then he woke up and he was just this different person, and in the corner there was the pod that was shelled down. And what the hell happened to that guy? Because usually, if you have an ideal or you have a belief, as you get older, you usually get stronger in that belief.
Yeah, but I think amnesia has set in. I'm sorry, Alzheimer's. Something kicked in on this guy, and he's still remembering being over in that small container over in Vietnam. You know what I'm saying? John. We're still fighting. Go to sleep.
I have a tremendous amount of respect for his service and what he went through. And we've said this before, but as a senator now, he's so far removed, I believe, from what a traditional Republican or a traditional conservative is. And I don't really think there's much argument on that. We were gonna. I don't mean to showbiz a point that we might have made later on in the show. Is, do you think, who is more afraid of the Tea Party, Ken? Do you think it's the Democrats? Because Harry Reid said some kind of off the wall remarks today about the Tea Party, or do you think it's establishment Republicans? Because Tea Party Republicans are really gaining momentum, gaining power. I mean, you look at the movements that are happening countrywide with counties in various states, including California of all places, threatening to secede from the states and form new states because their representatives are not representing them appropriately. And I can't recall a time, and I this is just me, I can't recall a time where there's been this level of frustration by the American people against the government as around the time of the early 1770s and maybe even 1860s, where we had a revolution and a civil war. I mean, it seems like the divide is getting wider and wider. And look, I'm not a proponent of civil war. I don't want war at all. But just that feeling where you're talking about municipalities and counties wanting to secede, and there's talk of states seceding. And who was it? The Texas Attorney General said that they're preparing for to become an independent nation if they had to be. Yeah. I mean, when does that kind of rhetoric popped up other than those other times in history?
Exactly. I can't think of any other times either. We have really gone down the road in which we have, after 100 years of war, when the socialists have won, and on October 1, they will be pulling up their black flag as if we were in Benghazi, to say that we are now a socialist nation. We have socialized medicine. We have social security. We have social everything, even media. So the bottom line is we can do whatever we want. I really adore the fact that Mike Lee, Rand Paul, and Senator Cruz, all senators, itch-slapped McConnell and McCain and Graham this week. That 21 hours, it wasn't really about Obamacare. What it was is someone has to take a rest of this party, and it's going to be us. Really, I think you have it right in the sense that the ones who fear us the most are the ones in the establishment. Liberals
on both sides.
Liberals are not afraid of us at all because they know what they're going to get with us. It's those who were in the GOP this week that woke up and found out that John McCain's not in charge, Lindsey Graham's not in charge, and also Mitch McConnell had to kowtow to Ted Cruz. And also, the strange news is that Mitch McConnell changed his mind when he began to hear word back in Kentucky that he was going to be primaried. The bottom line is these guys fear us, and this battle is really not about Obamacare. We already know what Obamacare is going to do. You have to actually repeal and pull out the whole weed. Speaking of weed, but
I get what you did, Obama, weed, chum bust. That was good. I like that.
Thank you. A segue there. But the bottom line is that I use the term segue.
And it wasn't to ride to Starbucks and get a latte.
But you know what? You know what I really fear is that the Tea Party doesn't know how strong it really is.
You know what?
I really fear.
But see, here's what I think. I think that's true to some degree, but the Tea Party doesn't know how strong it really is because it is truly a grassroots effort.
It's Luke Skywalker.
It's truly the people. It's not the politicians that know what their powers are. It's the people themselves, and they don't realize how much power they actually wield lawfully. And
who does though?
And one other point.
Go ahead.
Is I think, Ken, you're right that the establishment Republicans really fear the Tea Party, but I also feel that the liberals, they know what they're going to get with us, but I think they're afraid of us, the Tea Party group, because the Tea Party truly wants to undo what they've accomplished over the last 100 years, beginning with Woodrow Wilson, whereas establishment Republicans don't. And so I think that the liberals are scared of the Tea Party because they see all their work potentially being undone because there's an awakening in the American public and an education that's now starting to take place because people are actually talking about the founding and having these discussions that people haven't had in 100 years.
Well,
exactly.
I think both sides are deathly afraid of the Tea Party because the Tea Party actually has the opportunity to remove the two-party system. And I think the Democrats know that if they split up the Republicans and they really start showing who the Rhino Republicans are and the Republicans that bow down to the left or these moderate Republicans that go along with the left, they know that if that is infiltrated enough, the GOP establishment as we see today will be dismantled, and they will be up against an actual fight, which they have not seen in a long time. And there are those who, as we've talked about on this side, on this show too, in the past, is you'll see those on the left who will say, hey, you know what? I'm a Democrat, but I'm not one of these progressive idiots.
Yep.
And I don't want them representing me anymore. And if it can happen on the GOP, if the Tea Party can really get its teeth in and push people. And listen, you look at guys like Senator Ted Cruz. He makes no bones about who his boss is. He knows it's his constituents. They put him there to represent them. And he's not shy about it. And you're seeing other ones not just say it, not just say that they know who their constituents are, but actually take actions that reflect those words. And I think that if the Tea Party starts holding our elected officials accountable and saying, we're not going to deal with your status quo crap. You're not going to make backroom deals. You're going to do what I elect you to do. You're going to listen to me. As we're learning with health care right now, a lot of constituents are angry, and you're seeing a lot more people start to chime up with it. I think that's what scares the Democrats, because then not only can they not control half the right, which they do now, you look at John McCain and all these other ones that we talk about, but it will start to upset theirs.
And, I want to make one other comment about the Tea Party before we go to break real quick, but and that is this. I know there's a big push on the federal level as far as getting Tea Party candidates elected. I would like to see a bigger push at the state level
and local,
but particularly the state level. And here's why: if enough Tea Party candidates get into state level offices and state level legislatures, you can now have the states, and they haven't done it yet, but you can have the states call a constitutional convention, because Congress sure as hell won't do it, and you can have the states themselves exercise the power that's granted to them under the Constitution, form a constitutional convention, and actually amend the Constitution to protect states' rights again and so forth. And that's where I would like to see the Tea Party excel, because I think you can send only so many to Washington, but Washington is still Washington. I think if you get the Tea Party,
break that shell.
Yep,
you have to break that shell.
Beholden to their state constituents. And I think that's where you can really change it and talk about shaking Washington up. On that note,
before you go to break, if I could just say this right here. If we could repeal the 17th Amendment and you have 33 states in which there is basically a red state, and you took 2 senators from each of those states, that is 66 senators. Do you know we could repeal everything that FDR ever did with the House controlled and with a repeal of the 17th Amendment, where we have accurate representation from the state of the principles of
absolutely, and we've talked about that before. That was a huge blow to representative republicanism, and republicanism, the form of government, not the party, because you now look, the states are not represented at the federal level, and that was the whole purpose of having the senators chosen by state legislatures.
Which is why we have so many governors that have to speak out against the Fed now, because there's no representation there, and it's the only way to have states' rights actually heard, left or right.
Absolutely. Both sides. There is no way Obamacare would have passed if senators were chosen at the state level, because states cannot afford it.
No, absolutely not. And one last comment, too. You made a comment that, the Tea Party doesn't recognize the power, and Rooster said, well, they know it from 2010. That was the beginning. And that's the thing. I don't think the Tea Party's realized its fullest potential yet.
No, there's no way.
How much reach it can have and how much power it can wield. It's just in the infant stages. You look at the great scheme of politics in this country. It's still an infant, and it's being developed well, and hopefully it will continue to be developed well. And it may not be in the next 2 years that we get that split, but I'm hoping to see in our lifetime that you get that split from the GOP.
Listen, I'm bringing back a fashion statement, I guess. I'm bringing back something in fashion. Tricorn hats.
I know. Yep.
I'm going to start wearing a tricorn hat around town. And Sean,
I'm going to wear 3 baseball hats and point them in different directions.
Ken, will you wear a tricorn? And we're going to see if we can get this thing started.
Will there be any weed in it?
It can be made of hemp.
Hey, we're all green, man.
Just don't catch it on fire, right? Maybe you want to. I don't know.
Hey, Ken, if you want to stay on the line, there's one thing I want to talk about with you on the other side of the break, so hang in there for us.
Yeah, can we give her the car roll while we're at break?
Hey, absolutely. I'll do my best. 347-205-9399. This is the Sackheads Radio Show, back in 3. Car roll. Like we have the power.
Hello, I'm Lori, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Dr. Larry Arnn on how the founders viewed God as the source of our equality and legal rights.
America's founders knew, obviously, that human beings are not equal in terms of strength or beauty, or in terms of intelligence, industry, or talents. They understood that because of such differences in talents and things like that, some people would be wealthier than others. But human beings are equal, the founders believe, in their possession of natural rights, such as the rights to life, liberty, and property. Today, many Americans reject this equality of rights in order to pursue equality of condition through redistribution, or spreading the wealth around, to use a famous formulation. This is destructive of liberty as the founders understood it.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I know I've said it before. Check out our friends at conservativeoutcry.net, but I really mean it. If you want interesting and exciting political commentary and analysis, that is the place to get it. Different, always spot on, always truthful, never pulling a punch. conservativeoutcry.net. Tell Rooster to get Bulldog back on and that Sackheads Radio sent you. And also, coming soon, the Sackheads Radio Forum on conservativeoutcry.net.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
Hi, this is Sarah Marie Brenner. We often talk on the Brenner Brief about the fact that there really needs to be an organization to help people at the local level who are interested in running for things like school boards, city council, and other local offices. Well, I think I finally have the solution for you, at least for you women out there. It's called Politigal Network, Politigal Network.com. Their website's going to be launching mid-August, but they're already on Twitter at PolitigalUSA. I encourage you to follow them and become a member. Their goal is to be the #1 resource for conservative women. So if you love freedom, liberty, the United States of America, and politics, check out PolitigalNetwork.com or Twitter at PolitigalUSA.
Now back to Clint and Sean on Sackheads
We
Radio,
have the
radiating
best
elegancy and quality.
We do have an amazing theme song.
Who wrote that?
I don't know. We paid a ton of money for it. We went to an absolute music professional, and it took months upon months, and hundreds of musicians got together and collaborated
on this, and then it was finally performed by a breakout artist.
Oh, Sacco did it? Oh.
I'm making my own.
Well, maybe it wasn't that good. Maybe I've been listening to it all wrong. Maybe that's the problem. I'm kidding. I love our theme song.
I love the lyrics. I don't know how long it took him to write that.
And if any other hosts are looking for a theme song, the Sackheads would gladly accept payment for Sacco to write a theme song.
We will whore him out.
Make the checks payable to Sackhead Sean.
We'll give him a cut. No, Sacco, they only paid us $100. Here's your 20%. It's weird.
Sorry, buddy. Here's a cup of coffee. That's all I got out of it. I know Fox has been really cheap lately with their money.
What do you mean? Of course it's you, band. Only the best for you.
The conservatives, of course, Fox is cheap. Nobody likes to spend money. Hey, Ken. Well, I have you real quick. Have you been following at all West Virginia politics? I know that's right around the corner from you and our good friend Rooster.
Yes. Yeah.
The lieutenant governor debate yesterday.
I'm sorry, Lieutenant Governor. What did he say yesterday?
The lieutenant governor debate was yesterday for the election, and Bishop E.W. Jackson, who has made a big splash.
Virginia. That's the Virginia. And in fact, E.W. Jackson is going to be on my show on Monday night.
Is he really?
Yes, E.W. Jackson will be on my show Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Exceptional Conservative Show. And thank you for allowing me that free plug.
I feel like a moron. It's actually Virginia.
Yeah. Well, since my partner interrupted your free plug, go ahead and say again where they can find you. Sorry about that. I'm going to apologize on his behalf. Listen, he doesn't have this whole radio etiquette thing down yet. I'm going to put the shock collar back on him.
You know, you have it down pat when you use terms like segue. See, that's how you know.
I haven't got there yet.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for him to throw out the word germane and not in reference to the Jackson 5.
I tried that the other day, but I said Tito accidentally.
Right, I'm
like, hey,
that.
This is not at all Tito to our conversation.
And I looked at you and I said, you mean germane? And you said one of them.
LaToya? I don't know.
E.W. Jackson. E.W. Jackson is going to be on the Exceptional Conservative Show live from Nation's Capital on Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Their handlers have been trying to keep him away from audacious conservatives like me who don't mind sharing their opinion. Opinions like gay folk have no chance of going to heaven. You know, things like that. That's why they've been trying to keep him away from me so that actually he can become lieutenant governor. But no, I'm just joking. Oh.
I of course you are. That's going to be great. I've been following this, and I have a couple different reasons, but I've been following this because he's a Tea Party guy. If you listen to everything he says, for the most part, he's very much aligned.
Isn't he a bishop also?
Yeah.
Which is a big deal because it's a bigger deal than the knight. It's a bigger deal than the rook.
Right.
It's right next to the king and the queen, so it's a pretty important.
It's a very important position.
Yeah.
And from what I heard, he's going to give this Northam guy a damn good run for his money, and he may pull it out. I've been reading everything's early that I'm reading now and following, but he did a hell of a job in the debate yesterday, and I would say almost hands down won. So it's going to be really interesting. In Virginia, Virginia's gone back and forth the last few years as far as left and right. So it'll be interesting to see the pulse of Virginia now.
Virginia, the ping pong state.
Actually, because it's gone so purple over the years. The bottom line is this, and this is why Americans around the country, this race is the most important race in America right now.
Mm-hmm.
Next year's races in Alaska, West Virginia, and some of the other states. Colorado will also be very important, but this race is setting the mark to put the fear of God into those who are on Capitol Hill. There are two reasons behind that. Number one,
is that why they chose a bishop?
Why they choose a bishop?
Put the fear of God in people. Hello. I mean, come on. Don't you have to have somebody of the cloth to put the fear of God in
I'm here all week. Tippy Waitresses try the meal. Good night, America.
EW, forgive me. I apologize. Be prepared for my show. But these are not establishment candidates. Cuccinelli and Jackson and Obershane are not candidates that were handpicked by the GOP. In fact, they would like to have put their hands completely up and away from them. So if the Tea Party can help these gentlemen cross the finish line, it will scare the dickens. Hey, I use that one too. Scare the dickens out of those people who are on Capitol Hill and make them very worried.
What do you mean those people? Like scare white people?
You know, them folk.
Well, we'll look forward to hearing it.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be great, and I think it's going to be really interesting, and I think you're right. I think this will definitely be the pulse of the upcoming midterms. I really do. Yeah,
exactly. And Cuccinelli and Jackson, they need your funds because Obama's basically he's sending Obamacare subsidies out to people next week for the United States, Socialist States of America. So they're up against a big fight nationwide. So if you all could give them support along the way for those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio. If you're doing that, give a little shout-out to E.W. Jackson and also Ken Cuccinelli in Virginia. They need your support.
And that was a big endorsement from you.
Huge.
So thank you for that.
You know, you can play that back. Get that clip. Play that back.
Yeah. It's going to be mixed into our intro probably by next week, so just so you know.
Or right by the time of our next break. Get on that, Sacco.
Get on that.
Because that was pretty huge.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here too. But
Ken, thank you so much, my friend, for joining us this evening. It was a pleasure to have you back once again.
All right, take care now.
Hey, thank you, my friend.
Buddy.
Take care.
I love hearing from old friends.
You know what? How do you know he's old? Really, he calls in and does a nice segment, gives us a great endorsement, and you're going to say he's old. I really don't appreciate that. Oh, were you talking about somebody else?
Well,
fortunately, he didn't hear you say that because he's so old. He probably didn't have his miracle ear turned up all the way. So, yeah, we got Rooster on the line.
Red, white, and blue. That's a joke, son. A flag waver.
Hey, Rooster, did you turn your computer on via the clapper?
Man, how are you, Clint?
I'm doing well, my friend. How are you? Hey, hockey season's right around the corner.
Hockey season's here, my friend.
It is for his boy.
It is for your boy.
Good old number 8.
That's right. Yeah, and Sean, we haven't talked in weeks.
I know you're going to yell it.
Nearly?
Yeah. So, can I tell the story real quick, Rooster, before we get into the politics? Because it was a pretty funny story.
Okay.
So, Rooster and I were chit-chatting online, as we do. We're talking about his boy, who's an amazing hockey player. And by the way, I love proud dads when their sons are living in their footsteps, if you will. And it's always something that, and I'm not being at all facetious, it's always something really cool to me to see a dad so proud of his kid, son or daughter, and a mom. And Rooster's one of those parents. Loves to talk about his son, as he should. Mm-hmm. But his son on this year's hockey team had to pick a hockey number. So he was going for dear old dad's old number. Rooster, am I wrong?
Well, no, he wanted Ovechkin's number.
Oh,
he settled
right.
on Dad's number.
So he wanted number 8, Alex Ovechkin from the Washington Capitals, and it wasn't available. So he settled on Dad's old number, but he didn't say Ovechkin. He said he wanted number 8, and I said, "Oh, Cam Neely, who played for the Boston Bruins for years." Rooster didn't talk to me for a few days, and I couldn't figure out why. Apparently, That wasn't the right answer for him.
No, well, Ken said 33. Actually, it's 32. That's my boy's number.
And
for Mr.
Being a strong
Mr. Dale
dude man
Hunter.
online, and he's doing well, and we wish him continued success, and you know that. So, Rooster, you have politics to talk about, because when don't you?
When he's talking
Well,
hockey,
yes.
obviously.
Let me get started
he
first.
just got through talking.
I love Rooster gives us our mid-show update. He listens to the first half of the show and then calls in to tell us everything he disagrees with from our first half of the show. Usually.
And then we debunk it, and he ends up agreeing with us anyway. So it works out great.
You know, I'm sitting here in my boxers, a white beater T-shirt, sipping on a Pabst, and you people insult me.
Because
nobody
love.
insults you. Hey, do you have
let's
the
go to
Cheeto
your show.
finger marks? Do you have the Cheeto finger marks like along the belly, like what you did? You just like wiped it on your belly of your wife beater. Do you have the Cheeto marks?
I got a full handprint actually. So, and into the two-party system. Are you guys crazy?
Yes. Why do you think we're on this show?
Do you want my true answer to that, or what?
Yeah, I mean, are we talking clinically, or what are we talking here?
I mean, I've been touting that for years. I'm just saying.
That we're crazy, or the end of a two-party system?
Both.
Yes.
Well, that's something we've agreed upon, I think, since we've really been chit-chatting these last few years, is that the Tea Party could very well be the end of the two-party system.
We do not like the two-party system, and we've talked about this before on the show. It's an absolute detriment to our system of government, I believe. And nobody important agrees with me other than like George Washington. But what did he know?
Rooster does. But that's because he hung out with George.
Exactly. They knew each other.
All right, now listen. Here's what's happening.
Go ahead.
The people are waking up, and you know, I was thinking about this whole Ted Cruz thing. And now I don't necessarily agree with what he did. You read my article, and Ken is right. And by the way, I'm not going to heaven.
Move on.
Okay.
Probably not, but not for that reason.
Okay. All right, I'll move on. I could do so much with that.
I know. That door was so wide open, but go ahead.
All right. You've got to root this thing from the weeds.
Right.
You've got to. You can't just defund. You've got to repeal it, and for that we need numbers.
Absolutely need numbers.
You need numbers, and 2014 is the time. Right now, all you just need to do, and the people need to know about the bill, and I'm glad that Ted stood up and told people about the bill. But unless it comes out and it gets fully implemented, the people aren't going to know because they're not going to understand.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I think this.
Go ahead.
I think this bill has to be rolled out, and in thinking of it, I was reminded of something I learned in the Marine Corps, and it's probably the Mary, close your ears because we're talking Marine speak now. It's something. My dad taught me. What I thought was the greatest lesson of life, and it was don't ride them bareback. But later, when I joined the Marine Corps, I had a drill instructor teach us something. And what he said to us, and you got to understand that young Marines, all they want to do is kill and mate.
Right. And
what this drill instructor told us, and I think, while it doesn't necessarily apply to the Affordable Care Act, it's kind of apropos right now. And what he said was, if it smells like fish, it must be delicious. If it smells like cologne, you better leave it alone. And this bill smells like a whore on Court Street.
I agree with you. Hey, listen, I think one of the things...
And for my Marine Corps friends, they'll know what Court Street is, because it's right outside of Lejeune.
I think that one of the things... Listen, Ted Cruz knew which way the vote was going to go today. He's not stupid. I think this was to get... He was kind of using the liberal media against themselves. He's calling attention to it and letting people know just how bad it is. And I think that, in a way, he was quite successful. They're going to spin it around that he was just wasting time. A lot of them are leaving out on mainstream media the fact that Harry Reid pretty much gave him permission to do it. So it shows you that even the Democrats knew it was coming, and it's just part of things that happen. But I think he did a damn good job of raising awareness. He's not a stupid man. He's not up there, trying to hit a home run when there's no pitch coming. He knew.
And he did a couple things, I think. The some of the rhinos were talking about, well, why go through it, because we know it's just going to pass anyways. You know what? He was doing his job.
Right.
He was representing what he was sent there to represent, and that's the type of debate and discussion that we should be engaging in. It's not just let's not engage in the discussion because it's probably not going to go anywhere. No, you have the discussion. That's what you're there to do. But another thing he did is he actually put himself, look at whether media outlets agreed or disagreed with what he has done. He is now the point man on this fight for the Republican Party. He's kind of catapulted himself to the front on this issue. And so I think that it was obviously politically motivated also. But in addition to having that discussion, he's done something for his potential 2016 run as well.
And what he needs to do now is just remind people how he voted. He's had his say. Vote no when the time comes. There won't be enough votes. Let it be funded. It has to be implemented before the people will actually realize how bad it really is. And once that happens, 2014 will come to our side. And that is what you need to get rid of the bill.
You mean 2016? But it won't. I don't think it'll be realized until after the 2016 initial election.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of parts of it that are going to come out just as the election's finishing up, and that's the worst part of it.
Exactly.
I said this...
Well, I sent a tweet out today. I said, I demand equal protection under the law, or in this case, I demand the same waiver that everybody else is getting.
Yeah.
How about taking that to the Supreme Court?
So many people are overlooking the fact that all these waivers are going out, and that Congress is opting out, and the Supreme Court is opting out, and, part of me thinks that, was it Roberts, when he made his decision and he wrote why, and I said this to you a long time ago, I almost think that he was giving us a lesson on history and politics.
Roberts told us what to do.
He told us exactly, this is what happens when you don't pay attention to your politics, when you hire or elect these half-brain nitwits, and I said this to you off the air. I think he was kind of proving us...
He was, but here's the problem with that. His job is not to prove a point and come up with some bogus way of teaching us a point. That's not his job.
But he, according to what he said, he
could have written that into his opinion.
Right, but he could have written that into his
opinion. He could have written into, hey, you know what? No, this is clearly a penalty, not a tax. It's unconstitutional under the law, and this is why, which would have been the right call. And in his opinion, this is why you, American public, needs to pay more attention.
But that wouldn't have changed anything.
But that's not his job. Because you know what? In his job of trying to, that's activism on the other side of the issue. I completely disagree with activism from the bench.
I agree, it is activism. And whether he should have or should not have, I'm not saying right or wrong. What I'm saying is I think that there's a humongous, valuable lesson to be learned here that needs to be watched.
Look, he failed in his duties as a Supreme Court justice.
Agreed.
And as a result, I think he should be impeached for that. Now, granted, I understand Obama's here, and he'd probably put another lib on the bench.
Right, it can't happen.
And it would change the makeup of the court. But listen, he so missed the mark on that. In trying to teach the people a lesson, which is not his job, that I think he acted outside of his authority.
Agreed.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think that I would, if if the sackheads were my girlfriend, and I'm just using this as an example, mind you guys, and Ken, I am not gay. I would get laid for this, but if you go to their Blog Talk Radio page and go all the way back to the first time Rooster appeared on their show, this was the exact discussion we were having.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
word
very
for
much
word.
remember that. Oh, yes. And it's sad.
Was this after the Supreme Court, or
was just after the Supreme Court. It was one of the first times we went live. And we got off the podcast and we went to the live show.
Yeah.
And that's when we were Studio One. Long.
So if you were a girl, would I get laid?
Yes, absolutely.
You
remembered that.
You just remembered what dress I was wearing.
Yes.
No, but like we said before.
Now I'll light a cigarette.
Well, hang on. And the fact that I had no panties. So it was perfect.
Whether he should or he shouldn't have. What I think, and history will tell this, but I think what this did is tell us exactly like I said. This is the problem when you elect half-witted nitwits and lawyers. And the half-wits go along with what the lawyers say, and these lawyers sneak certain wordings in to get things to slip by just constitutional enough for the opinion of the court. Just because, based on your statement, and not the activism part, but based on the fact that what his ruling didn't meet the Constitution, if that's part of the reasons that you'd want him gone, obviously the other libs would have to go with him because they voted the same way.
Look, absolutely.
I'm not against that.
Absolutely. And I was just going to say, I think, in kind of dovetailing back to when we talked about Tea Party elections at the state level, holding constitutional conventions, look, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to a constitutional amendment having some kind of term limits in place for Supreme Court justices as opposed to this,
lawmakers in general
appointment for life. Oh, yeah, lawmakers, absolutely. Yeah. But because you cannot have judicial activism on either side of an issue, on either side.
I completely agree with you, but I think people now are starting to pay attention to that and what happened there. And whether we agree or disagree, it has sparked enough outrage in this country that the true guts of this bill are starting to show up. Whereas maybe if it was passed and for whatever reason it wasn't passed in the same manner or it wasn't passed with the same fanfare, if you had three libs up there, nobody ever would have heard about it. You know what I mean? If you had the slam dunk where there wasn't the Roberts who's supposed to be the kind of like the middleman.
Kennedy is usually the middleman.
Kennedy is. I'm sorry, Kennedy's the middleman.
And Kennedy actually came down on the right side of the issue.
Right. And I apologize, but what I'm saying is because it was split and you had Kennedy, you heard about it because they didn't know which way it was going to go because even the left and the administration knew that it was hokey. And they knew that somebody was going to call them out on their BS, or they thought. They never thought, in my opinion, Obamacare, as it passed, was going to pass that way. I think they thought it was going to get kicked back, and then during the next election, they were going to be able to use that to tout votes. Look at the GOP, the Republicans. They don't want you to be healthy. They don't. It's almost like Kerry with Syria, where they made a smart-ass comment, and all of a sudden it worked, and he's like, oh, look at me, I'm this great communicator. I truly believe that. I truly believe that they had no intention of Obamacare passing the way it was written that time. I think they were waiting to rewrite it a few times, and they were going to pull some stuff out, which is why it is the train wreck that it is, because it wasn't as refined.
I disagree. I think it's not
I disagree. I think they wanted to pass it. Remember the whole deal with, what was it, Scott Brown?
Yeah.
I think they knew they were going to pass it, and they did what they did before he came in to the Senate.
Yep, I completely agree, and I think that the reason it was written poorly is because they knew that they had a supermajority and couldn't be stopped, and they were unsure what the midterm elections were going to bring, so they had to get it.
But I think if that was the case, they wouldn't have left a lot of the stuff that's making them look like a-holes now.
But they had no choice. They had to put it together as quickly as they could.
Okay.
Because if they waited any longer, the vote would have taken place after the midterm.
That plan's been sitting there for, 14 years, if not longer, since it was Hillary Care, and they just renamed it?
Not to this level.
Well, I still feel that...
although, what's up with Bill Clinton now and the Clintons politicking with Obama on the whole health care thing?
Weird, right?
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
I love it because Hillary's now going to have to own it. Right?
Didn't someone just refer to it as Hillary care?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Clinton care.
Clinton care. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Well, they're already trying to hang around her neck.
Well, but that's how far back it goes. They were pushing this, 14 years ago now, however long ago it was?
They were, but now it's bringing it to the forefront again because you have Bill out there politicking with Obama, and that could hurt Hillary in 2016.
Bill just goes out with Obama so he can get laid.
By
Gets
Obama?
him away from the wife.
I don't think Bill needs a wingman anymore. I'm not going to lie. I think if he wants it, it's there. I don't think he needs the Obama wingman. You know what I mean? I think he goes out. You know why? It's because I believe Bill's a humongous attention whore.
Oh.
And I don't think he can be out of the limelight. I think he's one of those people, and he needs to have that. So he puts himself on the face because he's not helping Hillary right now.
Hang on a
second.
second.
He's still doing it.
I dare Joe Biden to go out drinking with Bill Clinton. They both unzip their fly, lay it out on the bar, and say, "Hey, who do you think will get laid first?"
No, we're talking about Joe Biden here.
That.
So you have to go back to what was that movie? What was the movie? The Bachelor Party. Joe Biden would be the guy with the foot long.
The problem is while the two of them do that, Anthony Weiner would be running up with his out, so it would just get ugly quick. At least his name's appropriate. Hey, Rooster, we got to go into our last break, buddy. Thanks for calling.
Hey, have a great night, guys.
Hey, thanks
Everyone,
a lot, Rooster.
check out conservativeoutcry.net and read the musings of our good friend Rooster. We'll be back at 3 on the Sackheads Radio Show.
Hey, if you care about what's going on in the world, you cannot afford to miss my show. Hi, this is Andrea Kaye, your host of The Andrea Kaye Show. It's not always about the money. Okay, it is always about the money, but it's also about politics, pop culture, and you. The only thing street about this show is the smarts. There's a reason they call me Dynamite in a Dress, and you'll find out why when you listen Tuesday mornings at 10 on Financial News and Talk.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
3, 2, 1.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank all the wingnut leaders throughout the world to give our men and women of the armed forces a job, as well as all the anarchists, terrorists, and Occupy folks that give our men and women in uniform on the home front, firefighters, law enforcement personnel, and first responders, job security here in the States as well. So thank all you wingnuts out there. This is Sackhead Clint saying have a good day.
Now back to Clint and Sean on Sackheads Radio, radiating elegancy and quality.
Hey, Rooster's pointing out in the chat room that he thinks he was cherry-picked by the 5 off his latest article. And I read the article. I don't want to give it away because I want him to get the website hits. But I read the article and I actually saw the episode of The Five, and I would have to agree. Which it's funny because we've said that about us a few times, is that we've said things on the show, and the next day all of a sudden it's popping up almost word for word.
Yeah.
On Fox. So that's what happens when you grassroots media. That mainstream media and Fox. Listen, Fox in some ways is very much mainstream media.
Yeah, they are.
And they have to go to these smaller grassroots shows because that's the pulse of the people right now. So.
Yeah, and I think they have an inkling that the Sackheads Radio show may actually try and buy them out someday.
Right, so they should probably know now who they work for.
Right. I think they're just kind of getting the feel for us, so that's nice.
So
I want to give a shout out to a group we haven't said hello to in a while, and that's the Marine Station in Okinawa, Japan.
Yes, absolutely. We thank you very much for your service, as we do
all of our men and women
in
uniform.
But
particularly that unit we know follows us, so thank you all for your service, and you guys be safe out there.
Yeah, by all means, be as safe as you possibly can. So we talked a little bit earlier about the Tea Party and the clout that it has, and I don't think it's quite reached its full understanding of its power. And we talked a lot about a lot of different things tonight. We talked about Senator Cruz and what he did, but Harry Reid, and
is a gigantic troll.
A-hole. He's an a-hole. There's no doubt in my mind.
I was going to say troll. I was being nice.
A-hole.
Does he look like Gollum? is like the healthcare bill like his ring? My precious. What? Am I wrong?
It's a good point.
Gollum Reid.
Gollum Reid. We should just call him Gollum.
Just Gollum.
But he went, you have the left and the right, and they've been fighting for years.
Just a couple.
Just a couple.
Right.
And they've been arguing. You like how I said that? Arguing.
Yeah. They've been disagreeing, for those of you that don't speak Bostonian.
But this tells you what a threat the Tea Party is becoming to even the Democrats. And when we talked about this earlier, this is a couple clips of Harry Reid Gollum talking about the Tea Party, and this is over the last year and a half or so. I kind of spliced these together.
Sacco, will you play the clip?
So Republicans, instead of working on this valuable infrastructure bill, have been causing us to waste time on issues not related to this. They've had to retract that because the Tea Party rose up and said, we got to have more votes. Madam President, we have a situation where this country has been driven by the Tea Party for the last number of years. When I was in school, I studied government, and I learned about the anarchists. Now, they were different than the Tea Party because they were violent, but they were anarchists because they did not believe in government at any level, and they acknowledged it. The Tea Party kind of hides that. But even though I've worked with Senator Shaheen and Senator Portman, there will be no amendments. We got them all. We got all bipartisan amendments. Of course, we're diverted totally from what this bill is all about. Why? Why, Mr. President? Because the anarchists have taken over. They've taken over the House. Now they're here in the Senate.
So he's calling the Tea Party anarchists. Now,
anarchists believe in zero government.
Exactly.
Zero government.
Tea Party believes in very limited government.
They believe in the Constitution
rule
as
of law.
The rule of law. And the Constitution is the founding document of our government, so they believe in the foundations of our government, and they believe in a limited federal government, and that the power rests with the state, which Gollum, you jackass, is a form of government. I don't know where he's going with this.
Well, and I love how listen, this has nothing to do with whatever bills he was talking about at the time.
Tea Party
anarchists. This is the Senate on the floor, the Senate Majority Leader on the floor trying to undermine a grassroots Tea Party movement because it's so frightening.
Because it's dangerous to him.
To the point that he would absolutely refer to them as anarchists. He throws in the qualifier, although not violent. And by the way, if I find the person that taught his speech class or whatever public speaking class he went to who said, hey, you'll sound like less of an asshole if you just whisper almost the entire time. And that way you sound like you're well thought out and that it is very, very soft-spoken. You won't be a dickhead.
See, I have a different take on it.
Okay.
Maybe he speaks that low because he's so damn old and he's been there so damn long that he needs to retire.
Well, listen, he's been in since what, early 80s?
1880s, I think.
Yeah, that's what I said, early 80s.
Right.
The later 80s would have been 1980s.
Right.
The simple fact of the matter is I was watching over the last 2 days, you start seeing these old senators and congressmen, but senators because it's been in the Senate the last 2 days, who keep talking about 25 years ago. Oh, 25 years ago we did this, and when we shut down the government the last time, and when this happened, and I came into the office with this guy in 1970, blah, blah. Doesn't that tell you that maybe if you're still so focused...
You've been there way too long.
You have been there absolutely way too long.
And he said something else. When he was in school... So I guess when they wore knickers and they were walking with their little book belt and stuff down to the schoolhouse.
When they were spinning the wheel down the street with the stick.
Right. When it was K through third grade because that's all as high as anybody went and in the little local schoolhouse with the one school marm. So when he studied there, he said he studied government.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of government did he study? Did he study like Russian government?
Not ours.
Like Cuban government? Notice he didn't specify. I studied U.S. history and U.S. government. I studied government. Like what? Did you study like the Reich? Did you read like Inside the Third Reich and Mein Kampf? I mean, I don't get it. I don't know what kind of government he studied.
Well, he studied all forms of government, and that way he
like
could
Woodrow
cherry
Wilson
pick,
and FDR.
Right. He could cherry pick what he wanted versus the form of government we have.
Right.
The other thing, too, that I really wish all politicians would stop saying is that we are a democracy, and I know we've said this a million times on the show, but it's insulting to have the people who are elected by us to represent us in Washington.
That would be a representative republic, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And not know the difference. Or even if it's just easier, and that's obvious, well, it's just easier to say democracy.
I'd even be okay with democratic republic.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that.
I'm just saying, even republic, if they're trying to get quick and say it quick and just, I would be okay if they even said republic. But they don't. They choose to say democracy. We've talked about this in the past, is because they try to convince people that this is a pure democracy.
And we're not a pure democracy.
We're absolutely not a pure democracy. So
there's some democracy.
Absolutely.
But we are not a pure democracy.
Absolutely. But this, to me, the fact that he can go out there and call a legitimate political party anarchists, and the anarchists are violent and they're not violent. Well, thank you for giving that disclaimer out. That was really nice. But the simple fact of the matter is you've related us to those anarchist idiots that aligned themselves with Occupy Wall Street and started destroying buildings and taking dumps on police cars and raping people and doing drugs. Those
are real anarchists.
Yes. You just put those two together.
Well, you can, because look how much violence has erupted at Tea Party rallies nationwide. Hang on, let me pull up the statistics. Oh yeah, there were none. Never mind. Those were all Occupy articles I was looking at.
I was going through some old clips earlier this week, and to talk about
at the range or
no, some of our old clips and some old news clips doing some research. Specifically for this
I don't know
topic.
If you had like the Grand out and you were...
One of the ones that I came across was, do you remember the outrage when a Tea Partier showed up to a rally and he had an AR-15 on his back?
And the racist one.
Right. They showed you the picture from the neck
racist
down.
White guy.
Right.
Yeah, he wasn't
every
racist.
Mainstream media outlet jumped all over it, and this is what the Tea Party is. They're gun-carrying God lunatics and blah, blah, blah. This, that, and the other thing, and they're all racist. They love to throw that term around. Every left pundit possible tried to say that they were, all Tea Partiers are racist, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden you backed up and they showed you the full picture, and it's a black guy that they didn't want you to ever see. And the fact that they cropped that, and listen, we all know that they did whatever they could from the beginning to push their agenda. Mainstream media, I mean, you look at the Zimmerman case with what NBC cropped, and anytime the Tea Party has a rally, what they pull out of it. And you even talk about when Obamacare was being pushed through, you had the the guy from Georgia there claimed that somebody used a racial epithet and spit on him, and that was when Breitbart really came into
I said, well,
the big light and said, hey, I'll offer you, I
no.
think it was like $100,000 if you can get me video.
Yeah.
And they said, well, if there wasn't video.
Or any proof.
Right. Oh, you're saying that if it's not on video, it didn't happen? No, I'm saying there was 1,000 video cameras and news cameras and cops and all this other stuff there, and if one of them can show me it happened, I'll pay you for it.
Yeah.
And he was going to donate the money to the NAACP. That's how sure he was, and that's how sure I think a lot of Tea Party are, that stuff isn't happening. And when you have these scumbags like Reed that are just completely entrenched political jerks, and their whole job is being a politician, they couldn't possibly work a real job in their life if they had to, who don't want that to go away, and they'll do whatever they can to tear down the Tea Party. And it's so disgusting to see that this week when this is the limelight, and that's how he used it. And by the way, left and right, the way people have spoken about Senator Ted Cruz in such a negative way, because he does his job. What a jerk!
Yeah, who is he going against the establishment and actually doing his job and engaging in intelligent debate?
He should, he's a freshman. He should just go sit in the back and shut up and do what he's told. No, he's doing his job when he got to his office, and you people are so afraid of that you're just going to destroy him left and right and anybody who stands with him.
You know why? Because they threaten their power.
I know.
They threaten the establishment. They threaten their power. And let me ask you this. Ken brought up, and we've talked about it several times on the show, about the 17th Amendment. Do you think that state legislatures would stand for their senators acting that way and engaging in that type of dialogue?
I don't care if you're the most leftist state. It makes you look stupid.
California would probably put up with it,
right, well,
because California's a bunch of wingnuts.
But California would have like Carrot Top and,
they would have like Chairman Mao and
Che.
and Che Guevara as their senators.
No, I agree. No states, if they were elected by the states, would ever stand for that. They would be called back and either chastised or fired.
But here's what I think that I don't think there would be this issue in the Senate if they were elected by the state legislatures, because I think you would actually have
statesmen.
I really believe you would.
I believe you would as well.
I think you would have true statesmen, and they would be acting in the interests of their states at the direction of their state legislatures.
Right, because it's not about winning that popular vote and getting the popular opinion out there.
Yep.
It's about
it's politics at that point, but it's not.
But it's on a
you don't have
different
to
plane.
You don't have to grandstand to the voters who are, in a lot of cases, uneducated.
Right.
They don't keep up on the issues, and so you don't have to have those little sound bites to, oh yeah, he's a fighter, let's reelect him, or yeah, he's got great ideas, let's reelect him, or whatever the case is. You actually have to go and do your job and engage in the dialogue and read the bill, but know what's in it before you vote on it.
Absolutely.
Because you're beholden to other lawmakers.
Well, it's funny. And this topic came up sort of, and it spewed into the whole, businesses and corporations being able to donate to political parties, and somebody said, hey, we should go back to just federally funded elections, no outside money. This is it. And I said, that's fine. But then we have to go back to enforcing equal time in media, because that has gone away severely.
Yep.
You don't get that equal time. And that was one of the things that was a rule for a long time, is that you had to have equal time. And you have so much slanted media that's reported as news and fact that, people don't know if they're turning – because here's what it used to be. You used to have shows of opinion where it was like a Mike Wallace show or something like that, where it wasn't a news – they weren't sitting at a news desk. It wasn't – you didn't have the runner. You didn't have all that stuff. People knew it was an opinion show by its appearance. And what mainstream media has done in the last 20 years is they've kind of morphed them all into one set or one style of set that people don't know if they're turning on an opinion or happening now news. You know what I mean? And I think that's something that has been a specific deception done by media to push the left agenda.
Oh, of course it has. I don't think there's any argument there for that. I mean, you look at these shows, Pierce, bring him up all the time. Remember Yorktown. I'm calling him Pierce.
Pierce.
No, Pierce.
Pierce is something that happens with a needle.
Exactly, which is what should happen. So I'm calling him Pierce. You don't know. He's from England. He may have a Prince Albert or something. I don't know. You don't know. I mean,
why would you even put that image in my head?
Look, I'm not. Why are you thinking about it? I'm not.
Well, now I can't stop thinking about it. That's the problem.
That is a problem. For you, not for me.
I want to vomit.
Remember Yorktown, Pierce. Why doesn't he ever call in? How many times have we just sent him direct messages on Twitter, and he hates us?
Because
nobody is listening to your telephone calls.
That's why he doesn't call in. Right.
Okay.
Nobody would listen to him.
Right.
Have you seen how poor his ratings are? They're going to replace him soon with like a pocket fisherman infomercial. Like his numbers are getting that bad.
It's going to be the guy that teaches how to like paint landscapes, but he used like orange and black and was able to create like a beautiful. Remember that guy with the big red afro?
That's Bob Ross.
Yes.
Happy trees.
Happy
Let me
trees.
put some happy. I loved how you watched that show, and this is completely off subject. I love how you watched that show, and that was supposed to be like an educational show.
Right.
And I was like, there's no way that I can watch a 30-minute painting. And he paints these amazing sculptures.
Yeah, with like two colors.
And mine looks like a stick figure vomiting on a picture of a puddle. You know? I'm like, how did you even do that?
And there's the happy tree.
Happy tree over here.
Happy tree.
This is
But
Bob
that's
Ross.
more entertaining than Pierce.
Wishing you well. Absolutely. I love Bob Ross. Where were we?
We were wrapping up the show.
Not yet.
What we were doing.
No, but you have people that turn on guys like Pierce, and they're like, "Well, if he said it," and here's another. I know this was done by design. You get that British accent for whatever reason, people assume it's honest. Well, he's got a British accent. I mean, how much of a liar could he be?
Not a liar. I think he's. I honestly believe. I don't think he's a liar.
I don't.
But I think,
completely think he's a
do
liar.
You?
I think he says things knowing it's false to push a narrative.
I think he knows. I think he knows he has a false. I don't think he understands American founding doctrine to be able to have a legitimate point of view. Does that make sense?
No, he definitely goes with narrative.
Yeah, he has a narrative, but he has a left narrative. He doesn't understand the issue fundamentally at its base, at its core,
right?
To be able to engage in that type of intelligent dialogue. So I think he hears something from somebody else on MSNBC, and it's like, yeah, I'm just going to go with that. Or guns are bad because they're bad in England, which worked out really well for you guys.
Right, now they're trying to outlaw edged weapons over there because they've had so many knifing incidents and stabbing incidents that it's getting out of control.
Well, that's weird. How can but the good thing is they were able to reduce gun violence.
Gun violence is through the floor. Person-on-person crime is through the roof right now.
Listen,
I mean, that's the problem.
But what are they saying here in this country, right? Oh, we need to reduce gun violence. No, we need to reduce violent crime, period.
In general.
It doesn't matter what is committed.
Right. The fact that you're prejudiced against guns only is just... So you're saying it's not okay to get shot.
But it's okay,
to get stabbed all you want.
Yeah. Well, no, that's not what we're saying. Yes, you're schizophrenic. Just focus here.
It got really quiet.
Are you looking at a picture of Bob Ross? Really? Where did you even find that?
PBS. No, but
Wait, what are you doing? Are you seriously trying to draw that right now?
Yes. Dude, we got like 7. Nobody's even listened to the last 7 minutes of the show.
Focus.
I told you, the first 7 minutes, the last 7 minutes, we could come up here and absolutely just play like Battleship. And nobody would even know. Nobody listens to this. The meat of the show is over. They know we go to the first break, we pull out the big topics, and then we just close the show with jibber jabber. Hey, real quick. The kid who was suspended.
Yeah.
Overreach of schools.
Yes, that was a good segment. Next.
Okay. Hold on, I have a bunch more here lined up. We're gonna do the lightning round, baby.
Go.
Well.
Yes, he was in his front yard playing with a toy gun, shooting pellets. Wasn't on the school bus yet. School said they have a zero tolerance policy. My question is this: what if I take my kids shooting? And now they're in possession of a gun and it's off school property. Are you really going to try and do that? Let's go ahead and have that debate, you jackass school administrators. Next topic.
The Islamist attack in Kenya?
It was bad.
Next.
Come on, we got a few minutes. Let's go through this. Look, it was at a shopping mall. I think it's a dry run again for what they hope to accomplish here in the United States, kind of like the Chechens in Beslan, Russia was, which is weird because what were the Boston bombers? Oh yeah, they were Chechen, as well as Mumbai,
Stop
India.
connecting dots that are obvious.
I apologize. So yes, it was bad, but I do have to say this. Hey, Americans, it might not be a bad idea. Thomas Jefferson actually ordered a copy of the Quran and read it because he wanted to study his enemy. At the time, we were fighting against the
Pasha,
and the Tripoli pirates, who were Islamic extremists. They told our envoys when they met, "Hey, we do this because it's written in our book that we shall commit violence against you." Essentially, they wrote a report on it. Jefferson got a copy of the Quran to study the enemies. I don't think it's a bad idea for us to do that also, because in the mall incident, they actually asked some questions based on the Quran. So if you are taken hostage and you can answer those questions,
you may be able to walk
gain
away.
Confidence might not be a bad idea.
Know your enemy.
Anyways, next topic.
But I have a statement on that too.
No, you don't. Next topic. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
I love that look on your face.
Somebody brought up a good point.
It's a glow.
It's absolutely a glow. Where are the moderate Islamists coming out and denouncing this? And saying, hey, you know what? That's not okay. They're not a part of our church. That's not what our...
I think there was a group that did.
There's been a couple small groups. And I was reading the thing. It was a blog, and it was written by a Muslim, and I wish I had it up here. And he essentially was saying, or she, it was a she, if I go to my mosque and speak out about this, and she lives here in America, she'd probably be beaten in the mosque. Because they are so afraid of the extremists, even over here, that they don't dare want to come out and say anything at risk of them and their family. That tells you how sick it is that they're in this country, in mosques here, and they're afraid to speak out against it because of retribution from these splinter groups like Al-Shabaab and all these other ones. That tells you how deeply rooted in violence those extremists are.
You can't have something named Al-Shabaab. It sounds like a kebab, right? It sounds like food of some kind.
I want to order shawarma every time I read their name, and I don't know why.
Are you going to have an Al-Shabaab? Like, I could seriously go down to the deli, get an Al-Shabaab and a Pabst, and be good, right?
Can I do Al-Shabaab? Yes, next. Al-Shabaab for everybody.
Yeah, I need an Al-Shabaab and a Pabst on tap, and I'm going to eat it right over there. I mean...
Yeah, but it's sad to me that even in this country with all the protection, all the freedoms we have, that they won't come out and say it because it's such a... Think about that. It's their own religion. This group just let Muslims go.
But they are winning, okay? Because you have a small group that a big group is afraid to stand up and say something against. Kind of like, right, when a progressive actually... Well, never mind.
I don't want to make those connections yet because it's too obvious.
But
what?
No, you're absolutely right. But anyways, we're not gonna change that. But more Americans need to quit being such sissies about it and actually stand up. You're not a racist if you speak out against Muslim Islamic extremists.
Absolutely
They're extremists. You're not being intolerant of religion.
And that's what the blog post said too. The blog post said, "Hey, you know what? We need other people to come out and say that." And that way it gives us a little bit of protection. Because if they think that a lot of the extremist groups think because there's mosques over here and stuff like that would be their landing ground. I'm not saying that there's not some mosques in this country that would permit it or at least take them in. But everyday mosques, if enough people in this country came out against it and actually denounced it, and if places like CARE would stop releasing 150 people in America who are Islamophobes because they've spoken out against Islamist extremists, then maybe the moderate Muslims here, who it's just a religion, they don't believe anyone should die because they don't agree, would be able to come out a little bit more.
Why are all these terrorist groups named Al?
I don't know. I feel bad for guys named Al.
Right? Al-Qaeda, Al-Kebab, Al-Shabaab, Al-Jazeera. I mean, what do they have against Al?
Imagine if your name was Qaeda. Right?
Right.
That's
Al,
your last name.
And your name is Al.
And your first name's Albert. Can you imagine growing up in life?
Albert
hey, what's
Qaeda.
your name? Al-Qaeda. Up until the first attack on the Trade Center, you were okay. But now everyone's just like, oh, geez, you know, and you're like, I'm a white dude from Queens. Like, what? I don't want to hurt anybody. I just want to get shawarma. Can I please have shawarma?
Okay, so how many times are we going to be called racist because we made fun of terrorist names?
I know. It's great.
It's awesome.
I think it's amazing. If you can listen to this and that's the only thing you can take out,
then you're screwed. There's no hope for you anyways. And hey, go have fun.
You are such a sad, pathetic human being.
Yeah.
But a sad, pathetic human being that I hope will join us next Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Here on the Sackheads Radio Show.
My friend, it has been a pleasure.
It is always a pleasure.
Back in studio.
Sacco, thank you very much for showing up eventually and just kind of hanging out. Jessica, thank you for doing all the work on the phone this evening and really making a difference for us. We will see you.
You really
Check
did, because I'll tell you, when Sacco handles the phones, he drops I don't know how many calls. But thank you for handling that. And by the way, I saw you point out the right button to him a couple times also when we were going to break. So thank you for that too, Jessica.
Hey, check us out next week. Check out our friends, the Exceptional Conservative Show, conservativeoutcry.net. Check us out on Twitter at Sackheads, on the Sackheads, www.sackheadsradio.com.
Also, check out Patriot Ordnance Factory, POF USA. Go to their website. They make an outstanding product, and they have some pretty cool Patriot gear also you can get your hands on.
Thank you. See you next week.
You got it.
Would help if I hit the right button again. Sacco, hit the button.
Sacco. They don't study history
you know
or
how
politics.
many emails now we're going to be getting from conservative sound engineers? They're going to be like, I'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah, one.
Well, it's still an email, right?
Right.
But I have to say that it was an accurate guess.